Hi, and welcome to the Writing Biz. This is where we take care of the business of writing. This episode is part 4 of our 4-part series in self-publishing, exploring the different publishing platforms. My guest today is Penny Sansevieri, and I hope that I pronounced that right. I probably didn't, but I know she'll correct me. She's the founder and CEO of Author Marketing Experts and a dynamic speaker that travels around to different conferences and events worldwide, and we're very lucky to have her here tonight. Since the start of the publishing series, we've discussed how you can determine if self-publishing is the right path for you, how to build a team that can help you put out a great book, and how you can finance your project. Tonight, we will talk about the different publishing platforms, such as Amazon, Kobo, CreateSpace, and others. But before we get started, I would love to hear more about you, Penny, and what you've been up to lately.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks for inviting me to be on the show. I appreciate it. So I've been traveling a lot, and I've been talking a lot about Amazon and optimizing books on Amazon, and that's been a very big thing for authors because SEO Moz did an article, gosh, I think maybe 2 months ago now, that said if you are an author, you really don't care about ranking on Google, you really want to rank on Amazon, and I think that's very true. So that's been a big thing. That's been a big message for authors that I've been sort of sharing as I go out and do talks. I just did the Greenleaf event last week, which was awesome. They're just a tremendous group of people. So we're staying very busy, and I'm trying to update Red Hot Internet Publicity, which is my book. So that's keeping me very occupied.
You know, it's very interesting you should say that because that's a very good point about worrying about how you rank on Amazon. And I think that a lot of times people just entering into the self-publishing space definitely need that information for sure.
Yeah.
It'll save them a lot of time in the long run.
Yeah.
You know, now, of course, we know that there's Amazon's not the only self-publishing app. Platform, and there's a lot of people that choose different ones for different reasons. Either that's a contractual reason, they prefer how the other one's set up, or it fits their feel for things. What do you think is the first thing a person should look for if they're new to self-publishing when they're trying to decide on where to publish?
Well, I mean, I think that when you're trying to decide where you want to publish, I mean, I think the first issue is what are your goals for the book? What do you hope that this book is going to do? Are you going to use this book for a speaking platform? Is this a fiction book? Some books should just go straight to ebook, right? So I think it's important to both know your goals and put together some kind of a, you know, even if it's just one page and just taking some notes or something and just put down, you know, some ideas and then start to look for publishers, because a lot of times authors do it in reverse. And the reason that I mention this is because different publishers offer different things. So some publishers do really well with color. Some publishers do really well with oversized books. You know, and some publishers do well with all of those. So you want to look at that. And the other thing that I recommend, so when I was teaching, so I teach this class for NYU on self-publishing, and I tell the students there, and like, look, you want to really do your due diligence about a self-publishing company, because you want to make sure that it's reputable, that they've been around for a while, because if you have an issue with your publishing company, it's really hard to switch. Because that ISBN number that you have that is assigned to your book is, you know, unless you own it, it actually belongs to the publisher. So if you move, you lose that ISBN number, which means that you're going to have this other book sort of floating out there on Amazon. So it's important to do your homework with that.
Yeah, I know. My friend Charlotte Pierce of Pierce Press always recommends that you own your own ISBN number just for that reason. And it can save you a lot of trouble in the long run. But there's some publishers that won't allow you to do that. Am I correct in that?
Some publishers won't allow you to do that. Now, I don't own any of my own ISBN numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really care about that. That's not that's sort of not my thing. But I know a lot of people do, and I think that again, that's a business decision that you have to make. So, do you want to own your ISBN numbers? Do you want to be the publisher of record?
Right.
And again, entirely up to you. Now, some people will say that, because I want to take, if we can, take maybe a couple minutes and just talk a little bit about the fallacies. So some authors, okay, good. So some authors will they will become a publishing company because they're like, you know what, I really want to go through CreateSpace, but I don't want CreateSpace or Amazon Digital in my book. I want my own publishing company because that will allow me to get into bookstores, because otherwise I can't get into bookstores. And let me tell you, it really doesn't make a difference. Just because you have a publisher name on that book doesn't necessarily mean that the bookstores are automatically going to say, well, of course you can be in our store, right? That said, we have placed very successfully books in, Barnes & Noble and major bookstores and, bigger stores and things like that, books that were self-published. The key really is to publish something that's very high quality. So, you have a great cover, the book is really well edited. I mean, it's your book is your resume. So that's the first sort of fallacy. The second one is that companies like Simon & Schuster and Penguin, they now have self-publishing arms. That's fine. That serves a particular market, but understand what you're getting. You are not getting an open door into Simon & Schuster and Penguin. You are getting into their self-publishing arm. It does not mean that they're going to accept you into their house. I mean, if your book does really well, but then your book could get picked up by anybody, right? Sort of like Hugh Howey with his book, which he self-published. I mean, he had a bidding war going on.
Right. Right.
So I think that's a really important thing. I mean, pick a company that's really right for you, not just because you've been lured by whatever their copy is on their website, or we are a Penguin company or a Simon & Schuster company or something like that. That's very true, but it doesn't necessarily give you an open door into their stable of authors.
I would think too you have to give some consideration to the type of book that you are looking to publish. If it's nonfiction, you may want to choose a different publisher than fiction, just depending on how they are set up and what they offer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, what your book is definitely gonna merit some consideration. And the other thing too, Laura, is that some books may just go straight to ebook. I have 14 books out, and some of those are just straight to ebook books. There will never be a print version of them. So, in some cases, that's very appropriate. And in that case, if you have your Word document and it's a finished book, you can have that converted to an ebook file, add a cover on it, and you're done. And that's and that's all that you need to do. So it's a very easy process, actually.
Well, also, excuse me, my cat's being like really bad. I don't know what's up with him. I think the printing all threw her off. She hates the printer. What was I going to say? We were talking about the help me here.
We were talking about ebook. We were talking about ebook files and how easy it is. Yeah.
That's what I want to ask you too. Is the print on demand? A lot of these publishers that allow that do ebooks also do print on demand, which I think is a really good mixture. If you're not a real well-known author, it's a great way to be able to get both your hardcover paperback or the ebook out there, and gives you a little bit more of an opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that I think that it's important to know, a lot of companies now use print on demand because it is a great, as you pointed out, it is a great opportunity. Print on demand is a pretty acceptable form of printing, and we have placed print on demand books into bookstores, and the only reason I mention this is because sometimes publishers will say, hey, if you pay me $500, I will make your book returnable in the system. that doesn't have the kind of effect that I think these publishers were hoping that it would, because the bookstores still see this book as print on demand. So it still shows up as print on demand in the system. So just be careful of that. And if you're curious about any of these types of bonus services that these publishers offer, go to your local bookstore and ask them, because they are the frontline people and they see a lot of this stuff.
That's a very good idea. Yeah, that's a very good idea. Because it can get very confusing when you take it, with each thing being different from the other, and trying to figure out. I put a graphic up on in the comment stream that's just I printed it out. It's just a piece of paper with different publishers on it, and it kind of has a tick list of what they do and do not do, which is, to me, the way my mind works, a real good way of looking at things. But there's no reason you couldn't set that up yourself. Just really, have a page and a note paper for each one, and put what you like and what you don't like about each one until you kind of narrow it down to where you think you should go.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah, that is definitely a great idea.
Well, I'm all about those type of things.
Well, it helps to keep you organized. It helps to keep you organized, absolutely. The other thing that I really recommend is that you want to call these companies. You want to call them and ask them the same question or questions 3 different times. The reason for this is because sometimes some of these companies may have high customer service turnover rate. So you want to find out if you're getting different answers, if these people are really well trained. And part of the reason for that is because I believe that a really good, solid customer service department in these publishing houses is necessary, because you're going to have questions, and you don't want to end up having somebody who's just going to fumble your project because they don't know the answer, they give you the wrong answer. You and I both know, being in publishing, many things in publishing are negotiable, but there are some things that are complete and total deal breakers. Yeah, because if it either costs you time, or which is money, or money because of somebody else's mistake, that's even more aggravating, I think, than making your own. Absolutely.
Now, going back to earlier in the self-publishing series, we talked about if self-publishing is right for you, and that's a good point to bring that up, because I think that you have to decide if you are ready to deal with all these things. If you're really ready to spend the time looking for the publisher, figuring out which one's right for you and all that. I mean, or is it better, to go to an indie publisher and say, okay, here, this is what we need. I think you really have to kind of know yourself real well before you try to do everything by yourself.
Well, but I mean, and I think that is absolutely a great point. And I think maybe even beyond that, it's really important to know that there's a lot of work that goes into being not just being published, but getting out there. So publishing, is one small step. Having access to readers is a whole other piece of this. So you not only need to have the time, if you don't have the time to explore a publisher, you may want to reconsider the whole publishing kind of thing, because there's a lot of work that goes into, like, researching the right book cover, launching the book, and social media, and all of the stuff that sort of goes into making a book successful.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. It is a lot of work, and I think that's what a lot of people have to be prepared for when they're trying to self-publish, is that it is work. And I was reading, let me think about it a second. I was reading Joanna Penn's new book on the writing business. And she made some very good points to that. And her points were, all our time, everyone's time is valuable. So figure out what is valuable to you and your time, and which pieces of that puzzle you're willing to do, or which pieces of the puzzle you're willing to pay somebody else to do. And I think that's kind of speaks to that. That's by the way, that's a really good book. I haven't finished reading it. But from whatever, I like Joanna Penn's stuff so much, anyways. But it really does have a lot of good information, and especially on international perspective that I don't read a lot about. So.
Right. Yeah.
Um, Now, what if you're trying to decide on a contract? If you're looking at contracts, I mean, a lot of writers don't have much business experience and contract experience. My suggestion normally is, if you don't know how to read a contract, either learn how or take it to an attorney and pay them, whatever they need to read that contract and go over it. But what would be the red flags? Excuse me. Okay, you just go there. What would be the red flags that you should look for when you're trying to negotiate a contract or read over a contract?
Well, I think that the first red flag is going to be who keeps the rights to the book. So you want to make sure that you're keeping all of the rights. And Publish America, as we all probably know, keeps the rights to the books, which is, I don't even know that that's necessarily legal, but I guess they're still in business. So you want to make sure that you're keeping the rights, because that is the whole point of self-publishing, is that you get to keep the rights of the book. The other thing, and not necessarily contractually, but you want to find out in advance how much author purchases are. So how much of a discount do you get? This is kind of a big deal because, the first 90 days of the life of the book, you're going to be your own best customer. Right. And that should somewhere be addressed in the contract too. Is going to be what are author purchases. The other thing that needs to be addressed is what are the fees that you will get charged? Is there a yearly fee for them to keep your book on Amazon? Are there? There shouldn't be. There should be just you retain them. They do your book, because they're a facilitator. That's all they are. They're actually, right. We're calling them a publisher. They're not really publishers. They're facilitators. They will help you put your book into a book structure. If you hire them to do your cover, they'll do your cover. They'll upload it to Amazon, and you're done. But I know some companies that will charge storage fees, which I find odd, since they're not actually storing a book, and it is print on demand, so they're only being printed as they are needed. There are all just sort of miscellaneous odd charges. I mean, I think that if you start to get into this where it feels a little squirrely, I would just go and find another company, because there are a lot of other very, very high quality, very professional publishing, facilitators.
Yeah, I agree with that. Trust your instincts.
Trust your instincts.
And the other thing is really learn how to read the rights. Helen Sedgwick has a book, The Handbook for Self-Publishers, and she goes over that pretty extensively. And it may be something that you don't even consider, that you're signing away not just the rights to that book, but anything else that you write too. It's not just, it can be worded in so many different ways, and unless you really know how to dig into that language and make sure that you're protected, it can be kind of scary.
It can be kind of scary, and we're actually working with Helen with her book, promoting it, and I've read that book.
Oh, that's wonderful! I didn't know that. She was on my show. Yeah, she was on one of my first shows. Yeah. Yeah, she's fantastic. We have had some, and the book is terrific. And I think that, if you are the long and short of it is that publishing is a business. Publishing is a business like anything is a business. I don't care if you're writing poetry, fiction, memoir, nonfiction, doesn't matter. It's a business. So like a business, you need to know what's right and what's wrong. Helen's book is very, very helpful, goes a long way to sort of elaborating on more of the mysterious legal stuff that we often kind of shrink away from. But I think part of it is the research. So following your gut, as you said, Laura, the research and talk to other authors. So here's the thing. People love to ask for references. Okay, so you're going to hire a contractor, you're going to ask for references. You hire whatever, you're going to ask for references. Most people don't give you bad references. If they do, they probably shouldn't be in business, right? And not everybody loves everybody all the time. That's just the way of the world. So what I suggest is search them online. Research them online, because it's very hard to hide on the internet. It is, yeah.
Because I think that I would actually have conversations with authors who have published through them, because you can see on their book, and most authors are very forthcoming and they're more than willing to help you. What I would caution you about is if you're just sort of randomly talking to authors like, oh, we've used Author Solutions or we used CreateSpace or something, they may get into the whole I'm not selling books, that's not part of the publisher's concern or discussion. What you want to know is, did they respond well to you? Did they design a cover that you liked? Did you have, if you had any difficulties, how were they resolved? Things like that. Those
Right.
are, those are the elements. And like I said, authors are really very forthcoming about their publisher and who they, who they used and whatnot. I can tell you, I've had really great success. We've used both Wheatmark, which is a large, but I would say still a boutique publishing house out of Arizona. Love them very much. They're great. We've also had really good success with CreateSpace. I've used them, again, just to facilitate the publication of that book. It's easy breezy, and I like that. So
yeah, I've heard some great things about them too.
Yeah, they've we have a contact there now that I can talk to about our authors, and so it's become a lot. It's not this man behind the curtain kind of thing where you can't really speak to anybody. So it's a really good company. But again, you want to find somebody that is going to be able to facilitate this process easily and efficiently, without a lot of jargon, without a lot of blah blah.
Yeah, see, that's very important because, I mean, you want to be a part of the process and you want to feel comfortable doing it. And if you're not feeling comfortable, you may need to change the way you're doing it because there's a reason you don't feel comfortable, even if you can't really nail it down. It's kind of like a bad boyfriend. If you're starting to get the heebie-jeebies, there's probably a good reason.
That's a great, that's a great analogy. Yeah, that is a great analogy. I mean, you know when somebody kind of vibes with you, and you know when they don't. And I think that just going with your gut, and also one of the things I want to really, that I'm hugely opposed to is just a lot of sort of fanfare. I think it's great that you wrote a book. I know for a fact, since I've written them, it's a huge achievement. But flash is not going to make you book sales.
Right.
So things like, and a lot of these publishers will have you buy into this. In fact, a publishing house that is still in existence, that shall remain unnamed, told me that they actually make their money selling their marketing plans. That's really where these companies make money. Yes. So buyer beware. Having somebody blast a press release out to 5,000 people, not helpful, unless you're using something like PR Newswire where you're targeting the list and you're doing, email lists, typically, the email list that you buy, not very helpful. The things that still really work is the one-on-one reader connection, the mass submission, mass promotion, ads in newspapers, all that stuff doesn't have the impact that it did. Ads maybe worked 10, 15 years ago, but now
it's platform. Your readers expect more. They expect a connection with a writer other than just having their book. I mean, they do. And especially if it's a writer of series or things like that, they want to feel a little more engaged with them. And so if you're not building your platform, then you're really doing yourself a huge disservice. You really are, because it's that's it. To me, this is the way I think about it. And correct me if I'm wrong. To me, building your platform with people that care about who you are and what you're doing is the easiest place you're going to find to sell anything. And not only that, they're going to be the easiest. They're going to be more apt to go to their friends and say, "Oh my gosh, this person's great and everything." And all the ads that you put out and all the publications and all the foot stomping that you do to people that don't know about you at different events, I don't think is quite as effective as that type of connection. I'm not saying it's ineffective. I'm just saying I don't think it's quite as effective as that one-on-one type of connection.
I completely agree with you, and I think that I talk a lot, and matter of fact, in many of these sessions, I've talked a lot about superfans. And superfans are readers who are just wildly engaged with your book, and superfans can make or break a book. And you cannot find superfans in an ad in the New York Times or in blasting out people on a purchased mail list to get them interested. They have to be, that one-on-one engagement has to really happen. So, you want to think of things, when we talk about platform, and you've probably gotten this a lot too, authors kind of glaze over. They're like, oh, Platform, what's a platform? A platform is not who you know, it's who knows you. So it could be like your newsletter list, your blog. It could be something as simple as your Facebook account if you have a lot of very active followers who aren't necessarily family or friends or anything like that. So it's that connection that can help to build, so that your platform, you can now sort of, use that and build that and tell them when you have free book days and tell them when your book is out and, that kind of a thing. And one thing builds on another, builds on another. So 14 years ago when I was in business, I didn't really have a platform. I had my business, but there wasn't a lot going on with it because it just started. There were no real blogs at the time. That makes me sound so old. Like I was in business before blogging. And it was really just, my email list. And that's really where I started. And then, so I had the email list and I started to add to it. And then I just kept building on top of that. So then came the speaking, which is a platform, and the social media, and one thing leads to another. So you don't have to have every single platform in place when you start, but you should have at least one. And then you can build from there.
Well, yeah, and it's funny because you get to a point where it really becomes an exponential type growth. I mean, if you stick with doing something long enough, you really do start to see results. I'm not I do use statistics myself, but that's because this is my business too. I mean, social media. It's not just what I do as a writer or as myself, but statistics can work either way. Sometimes they can be discouraging. So I suggest to people to not worry about the statistics so much in the beginning, because getting 5 followers a week doesn't seem like a lot, but if the next week you're getting 7 and the next week you're getting 10 and on and on, it adds up. So if you're looking at the low numbers in the very beginning and paying too close attention to them, you're doing yourself a great disservice. You really are. So I think that it's that stick-to-itiveness with it. But building that platform is just ridiculous. I'm playing like musical chairs with my cat. Now I have a kitten in my lap.
Oh, that's so precious.
I was just so thrilled that the other one just left, and now she's up here.
And I'm having a hard time seeing you, or I'd love to see the kitten, but for some reason
I don't know if you can see her good. She's all black.
I can't see you at all on the video.
Oh.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know what's going on, but yeah, it's kind of weird.
Okay. Yeah, I think the platform's real important, and that's a very important piece of the self-publishing puzzle, because a lot of people rush into publication without having marketing plans and without having their platform somewhat stable, and then they get so disappointed because their book doesn't do well. Well, if you put your book on Amazon and you haven't done anything to promote it, you're just out there. Good luck with that.
I know. Good luck with
I mean, really. You're just out there.
Yeah. You know what? I'll tell you something. Your book is not the field of dreams. Just because you wrote it doesn't mean people are going to beat a path to your door. So, you got to get out there. And I'll tell you a little story, Laura. We did a promotion for a book. It was an ebook promotion, and in 2 days we gave away. This is an ebook on Amazon. In 2 days we gave away 61,000 copies of the book.
Wow.
Within 2 days, the author got 200 letters from readers. She wrote back every single one of the readers individually, thanked them so much for their feedback, and then encouraged them to review the book on Amazon. The book went from 20 reviews to over 200 reviews in less than a month.
That's wonderful.
This book, and then the other book in the series, continues to sell so well. I mean, they just, one sort of feeds on another, and this was all done by fans turning them into super fans, so fan one-on-one sort of outreach. So it makes a huge difference.
It's that connection. Yeah. It's just like, I just went back to Facebook, and I'm not a big Facebook fan. I'm just going to use it as an example. I've been on it less than a month, and I have over 500 friends now. But I have individually thanked every single one of them, because that's how you make the connection in the very beginning. You put your name out in front of them and say thank you. And I mean, all it is a copy and paste thing. It's not, but
yeah.
It's making that connection. That next time they see something by you, they're going to remember you a little better, and the next time, and if you're putting out good quality comments and questions and blog posts and interesting stuff, that they'll really start to pay attention to you. And I firmly believe it.
Yeah, and you're very engaged. I mean, I've seen you online. You're really engaged. I mean, you really do take the time. No, seriously, I mean, you really do take the time to engage, you know, with your readers. And you know now, and from example, it makes a huge difference.
Oh, it does. It does. And I mean, I have an evil plan, just so you know, but I have a way to take advantage of it all.
What's your evil plan? That's great.
But no, it is, and you know what? It brings me so much enjoyment. I've made some wonderful connections, personally and professionally. I've gotten a lot of work through my social media presence, not just on the social media aspect, but on the writing aspect. I just got contacted by a guy today who was looking for somebody to do some projects months ago, and it was in San Francisco, and he didn't want to use anybody remotely because he wanted somebody he could work with. Well, he contacted me today, and he says, you know what, I can't find anybody as qualified as you are. Would you consider taking me on now? And I'm like, yeah, I'll consider. No, I was nice. But I'm just saying it's that. And you know what else he did? He said he had gone to other people. This happened on Google+. He had gone to other people in Google+ and asked them about me. And they said, oh no, it'll be a good experience for you and whatever. So, but if that happened because I took that time, because I took the time to figure out how to use this different social media platforms well. I'm still working on Facebook, but still learn how to use them well, and then also, like you said, to engage and to give good information. I try not to give information that's iffy. It's just I handle social media for a public figure, and everything that I put up for him, I read word for word, and I read anywhere from 25 to 40 articles every morning. And the reason is because I don't want to put anything up for him that is not thoroughly vetted, because that could be a dangerous scenario for him. And I try to look at everything else that way. Even like on Pinterest, I make sure to follow the pin back to where it came from, and that it's not just some link to somebody selling something, that it actually has some type of value that whether it's a follower of mine or an audience member of this show that follows me or anything like that can get something from.
Yeah, so. Yeah. I mean, I think that's really, really smart, because you know, less is more sometimes, and sometimes you're better off posting fewer updates, but having them much more quality, having them of a higher caliber, as opposed to just throwing a bunch of stuff out there.
I absolutely agree with you, and you don't want to sound like everybody else either. That's a lot of people get trapped into that.
Yeah, you don't want to be an echo.
A lot of people get trapped. They lose their voice because it is easy to do. It is easy to lose your voice in a space where so many people are talking about the same thing. So you have to kind of figure it out for yourself. Now, you mentioned about the free books, and that's something I really wanted to ask you about for personal reasons. But what do you feel, and obviously that author had some great success with it, but what do you feel about the free books and offering the specials and things of that nature, and how that works in with self-publishing?
Oh, I think it's imperative to always have something free. You always want to have something free. And I think that, you know, so I read this book, which I highly recommend everybody read. It's called The Curve. And the subtitle is something like How to Market in the Age of, you know, the Freeloader, which essentially a lot of people want a lot of stuff for free. Not everybody, but you do find there's a large market of free out there.
Right.
And what the way I feel is that I want you, new reader, to sample my work and see if you like what I provide, because if you do, you'll probably tell your friends, or you may buy all of my books, and free can help you do that. So I'm a big fan of free. I do believe that every author should have at least one book for free all the time, and I will tell you that I have seen huge boosts in sales overall when you have something for free.
Yeah, that's I have been noticed. I've been paying close attention that there's some things that I've really have an interest in, and one is I've been watching people with their free campaigns and offering specials and things like that, and I absolutely agree, because a lot of people think, well, if they're offering it free, they're just trying to snare me into buying something else. That is true, but at the same time, it gives you, the reader, an opportunity to get to know if what they are offering is worthwhile to you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a two-way street. It's not a one-way street. It's not something that just benefits the author. It gives the reader a chance to see if the information has any value to them, if it's entertaining, if it solves a problem, or whatever the situation may be. So I do completely understand the paradigm of the free books, and I wrote that down, by the way, The Curve. I'm going to read that one because that sounds like it'd be a really interesting book to get to.
It's a great book. I picked up a lot of really helpful. Things out of it, and I think for anybody in marketing, it's a must read.
Yeah, and I think though too, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think a lot of times though, if you're a nonfiction author, the path is a little bit easier as far as offering free things and getting people's attention, because you have different, you can have courses where you get the first lessons free, et cetera, workbooks, certain downloads and things like that. It's a little more difficult, and I think you have to be a little more creative as a fiction writer to do the same.
Well, you do, except that it is actually much easier now than it ever was to promote fiction, thanks to ebooks, and I have Denise Wakeman. I write for her site,
Mm-hmm.
The Future of Ink, and I have a couple of articles up there about how to how to make free work for you, but how to make free work for you, and all these tools work for you if you're fiction too. So. Because now in the age of digital, and especially with all these ebooks out there and everything, I mean it's a really, really great opportunity. It's a great time.
I'll make sure to get the links to those, and oops, I lost you. Hopefully you'll be back in a minute. But I'll make sure, just so the audience knows, to get the links to those and put them back into the blog post I do after the show. So if you are on my newsletter list, you'll get that automatically. And if not, just look for it on any of the platforms that you're friends with me on, and you'll be able to get that. I am hoping that Penny comes back. She just popped up. Let us stop 1 second and tell you that you are listening to The Writing Biz, and my guest tonight is Penny Sansevieri. And for the video of the show, past episodes, you can visit thewritingbiz.com. And there you can also sign up for the newsletter, and that way you'll never miss another episode, plus get all the additional resources that I offer. I'm glad to see you're back, Penny.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened, but here I am.
I never know. I have had the strangest technical things happen. When I did that show with Helen Sedgwick and Rivka Kawano. Everything that could go wrong did. Yeah. I got up that morning. My internet box, the router, had blown for the third time. So they did not have any in the office. So I was stuck until they could bring one to me. So I spent all day trying to find a location to do the show from. Couldn't find any. Finally got a hold of my girlfriend. I did it at her house. So I get to her house. I could not sign on to her internet. It would not accept the password she kept giving me. So I ended up doing her laptop, so I'm using her laptop that I'm not used to. And I thought I plugged it into the wall. I thought it was plugged into the laptop. So in the middle, it dies. And then when it came back, the video itself was a complete blank black square. You couldn't see me at all. It was like one nightmare after another. It was a wild, wild show. And Helen and Rivka just went with it. They were so wonderful. They just went talking amongst themselves while I was gone. It was awesome.
Yeah. When you do these you have to be prepared for that, because it just happens. Like, this is now the first time that I've been able to see video almost since we first chatted. Now I can see your little kitty in the background.
I wondered, yes, you want to say hi to Penny? Say hi.
Hi, baby.
Yeah, she's a cutie. But yeah, and that's what it is. Sometimes if you just go out and go back in, everything's fixed, which basically, I guess, when you got kicked out, it came back in. Sometimes your audio will go down. You never know. It is a little wonky, but
yeah. Sometimes it is a little wonky. That's
regardless. I can put up with all the technical problems for the advantages it's served me. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's great.
Let me think. While I'm thinking, what else would you like to say about finding a good publishing platform Formatting we talked about, and I know the formatting's, I think you just need to pay attention to the formatting needs across the different platforms to see which ones fit the software that you have and the abilities that you have. And each one's different, so it's kind of something that a writer would have to investigate themselves.
Yeah, you do, and I don't really know. I mean, I don't do formatting, so I don't know that. I just look for things in publishing companies like, companies that have been around for a while, companies that are offering a really good service at a reasonable price and aren't trying to sort of ding me on every thing that I, if I have graphics or if I have images in the, in the book and things like that. You just want to make sure that you're, that you are partnering with a really good company.
Have you had good success with images in an ebook form? Because I hear nightmare stories, and then I hear people, it's like, oh, it was nothing. It was wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about the formatter. I mean, I think it's the person who formats it, and again, I've never done that, but I've had good success with images. In fact, my book, How to Sell Books by the Truckload on Amazon, has a bunch of screenshots in it, almost the entire book, and it's fine. So, yeah.
That's interesting, because there's a lot of like you said, screenshots and things I want to put into the one I'm working on, and that would be very helpful. I use Scrivener, which I heard is one of the better writing platforms for formatting into EPUBs and things like that. So I hope that by sticking to that I'm doing myself some justice. I'm not real familiar with the Scrivener. I'm actually just signed up for a course on it. So
oh, okay. Let me know what you think.
I'd
be really curious. Yeah, let me know what you think, because I'd be curious to see what your experience is there.
Yeah, I have the basics, but I don't want to take all the time that it takes to learn a software of that size. So I needed to kind of speed myself up a little bit, because there's a lot that you can do as far as formatting and different things, from what I understand. Like I said, I haven't really looked at it. I just type in it, make sure that my chapters are in the right files. That's what I do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now, I would like to hear from you if you could tell me what a really I don't necessarily mean a step-by-step process, because that wouldn't be fair to throw that at you. But if you were sitting there and you're thinking about going ahead and doing your own self-publishing, you're basically handling yourself. What are some resources you think that they could look? That's what I'll ask you. What are some resources that you think that would be a good place for a self-publisher to go? One thing, like me, I'm big on influencers and following certain people to learn different things. Do you have anybody that you, other than yourself, because obviously you're one of them, but do you have anybody else you would throw into the mix that writers should be paying attention to?
Well, I mean, I think that there are, we have a bunch of, I just actually published, and I can send you the link afterwards as a follow-up in the show, we published some of the 30 top publishing blogs to follow, and Jane Friedman and Joel Friedlander are two of them who I think are tremendous.
Oh, I love them, yes.
Yeah, they're always, they're publishing great stuff. Joanna Penn, obviously, she's great. She walks the walk, right? And that's that's really exciting. Yeah, I mean, I think that the first thing you want to do is really sort of follow some great resources and find people who are really reputable, that are out there just, also walking the walk. And I'm a big fan of, if you're going to talk to me about book marketing, you'd better have written and published a book, because I think that you really don't know what it's like to be out there marketing a book in a world that doesn't seem to be paying attention to you if you have not ever published a book. So I think that's kind of
fire. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We start next week. We start our series on book marketing, and I'm starting off with Rivka Kawano, who's from Author Sensei, and also Shawn Manaher from Book Marketing Tools. And they both have so much information, like the boots on the ground type information that I hope will be really helpful, because it's not easy.
It's not easy.
I say this time and time again, listen to the people that have done it well, and listen to, because they've made their mistakes too. Listen to what their mistakes were, listen to what their successes were, and you can avoid making a lot of those mistakes yourself.
Yeah, and we have and I'll add this to the chat as well. We have an Amazon checklist for the Amazon optimization that I'll send you that
Oh,
authors. I think
wonderful.
it's just a really good kind of thing for them to go down and just
Yeah,
make sure that their book is optimized correctly.
yeah, that's really helpful because a lot of people struggle with things like the meta description and meta tags and all that. So that's really helpful. And bringing it back to what we were talking about in the very beginning of this particular show is that SEO for Amazon. You know, getting the Amazon search parameters to work with your book instead of worrying about the outside like Google and things like that is incredibly important.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, that's that's bigger discussion than we have time to go into and what's left now, but it is, you know, there is a lot more than just the keywords. So it's the keywords, but it's also understanding how Amazon ranks on their site, which is something that I've spent probably more time than I care to actually admit in public, because Amazon's not a very forthcoming about how they rank on their site, just like Google.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
So, you know, get it. But, you know, it's categories, it's themes, it's keywords, it's a lot of other stuff that goes into, you know, so people say, well, you know, it's under metadata, and that's true, but there are various other triggers, and I think it's important because Amazon is a site where you know, you can kind of set it and forget it. So you can, if you get all these tools right, you can set Amazon. It works for you. It helps you to, you know, to push this book in front of your reader, and then the rest is, you know, the rest is easy. So to speak.
That's invaluable information because if you take the time in the very beginning to make sure that everything is taken care of, that you have crossed your T's and dotted your I's, and made sure everything is clear to Amazon itself. And like you said, there is a mystery to that rankings, just like with Google or anything else, and that's why so many people make a living trying to figure it out. It's not easy to figure it out. So if you have a way to concisely put together all those pieces, so I would be real thrilled to see that checklist. I think that's a great piece of information.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The other thing was, I know it's rising above the top, and I know a lot of people want to get into. I can't think of the name of it. I know, like on podcasting with iTunes, it's a new and noteworthy, and Amazon does a lot of things like that. You know, not necessarily the bestseller list, but recommendations and things like, you know, of that nature. And I know a lot of people have struggled getting reviews and things like that, which I think again speaks back to your platform. Here's a question for you. I got approached a couple years ago by a company that wanted me to write reviews for books. And so there are people who pay to get reviews on Amazon. And I don't agree with the practice myself. And that's because that's from me as a reader, not as a writer or a publisher. As a reader, I want to know that what I'm reading in the review is really what I can expect. So let's touch on that a little bit, on the reviewing and self-publishing.
Well, I mean, I think that there are companies out there that charge. So Kirkus and Publishers Weekly, they now charge to get reviews, and those reviews are sometimes published on Amazon. But those reviews are, you know, I mean, I think that those reviews are pretty authentic to the book. Now, paying somebody to write a good review is not ethical. Okay, so that's that. But, you know, if you are, you know, if you're pitching, so we have a gal that we work with who does just blog tours through iRead. So basically, you know, the author pays her, and she tours them on all these really, really big sites. So, you know, she's not paying her bloggers, but we're sort of paying her to kind of, you know, facilitate that. So it's a little, you know, I think that paying people for a good review is a bad idea. There was a company a couple years ago that did, you know, get all these 5-star reviews. Well, I'll tell you, Amazon will pull them down anyway. So I think it's kind of a non-issue.
That's why I said that. I think you have to just be really careful about the whole package that you're putting on Amazon.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, you don't want to have, and I don't want everybody to love my book. I mean, and I mean that very genuinely, because I actually learn more from the bad reviews than I do from the good ones.
Yeah, just like anything in life. That's very true. That's very true. I've learned more from my failures than I have my successes. That's a fact. You know, and I've had a few.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I like that kind of authenticity. And if I know that there has to be some type of parameter that Amazon uses with the reviews that helps bump you up and bump you up. But like we talked about in the beginning, if you've built a good platform and you've let your readers know that you appreciate them and that you would appreciate the review, most of the time they'll go and review your book for you.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes, absolutely.
I think it's a problem that can solve itself.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
Well,
yes.
Well, Penny, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. And
thank you.
Why don't you tell us what you have coming up and where we can find you?
You can find me at amarketingexpert.com, and we have we have a great blog. Obviously, we do marketing for authors. We have a great blog that has a lot of information on it, a lot of helpful information, and I have a number of events coming up. If you're in the LA area, I'm teaching on the 15th of October at an event there, and you can email me for more information if you want. I don't have it. Sorry, I have a bunch of speaking events coming up. I'm blanking on where I'm speaking on the 15th. But I've spoken there before, and I love them, and now I can't remember, and I hope they're not watching. I love you! I just forgot. It's been a really long day. But so I've got a bunch of speaking events coming up. We're doing a lot with Amazon. We're doing a lot of optimization stuff, because I think that's a big deal. There are 4,500 books published every day in this country. So
wow.
So think about that number, and that's a sketchy number because that doesn't include, that includes ebooks up to a point, but a lot of ebooks are published without ISBN numbers, which are trackable. So yeah, so just keep that in mind. But I'd love to hear from authors, so feel free to email me. But I will post those links also to the chat box. Maybe not this evening, but because I've got a very impatient dog sitting behind me waiting to go out for a walk. But I'll post both of them for sure.
That's fun. Tomorrow, too, I write a blog post, and I mention all the resources and links and everything that we mentioned during the show and kind of just bring it all together. I think it's easier for my audience, to handle things that way.
I just made a note right now to send that over to you. So
okay, cool.
Good. Well, thank you so much for letting me be on the show.
Oh, no problem. You were absolutely a pleasure, and you gave me a lot of good information, and my audience a lot of good information. But I was being a little selfish there. Next week we're going to start our 3-part series on book marketing. The topic next week is book marketing: the basics with Shawn Manaher of Book Marketing Tools and Rivka Kawano of Author Sensei. And they're going to give us some great tips and ideas that can help you build your writing business. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of The Writing Biz. Penny, thank you so much for being here. You can find past episodes, all resources and tools that we mentioned on the show at thewritingbiz.com. And while you're there, please join our newsletter so you'll never miss another episode, and you can get even more resources that can help you in your writing biz. The Writing Biz can also be found as a podcast on Stitcher Radio and iTunes. And if you have a chance, I'd appreciate it if you'd leave a review there. Penny, again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody who is watching or listening to The Writing Biz. Have a great week.
Thank you.